I decided I might as well die comfortably, so I curled up in bed with a soft blanket and a mug full of dark rum. "How do you know where I am?" I wrote back, anxious, but almost comforted. If she was a friend, then I had someone in my corner, and if she wasn't, at least maybe the nightmare would be over quickly.
Your IP address. You really should invest in a VPN.
Is that some kind of cable news network? Jennifer, are you still there?
Yeah, sorry. I wrote something sarcastic and decided to delete it. Can we meet? I'm in town.
A little chill kick stepped its way across my neck. I thought for a moment, and then sent Jennifer the name of a restaurant and the time to meet in the morning, friend or enemy. I'd face her soon, but I'd have to make it through the night. First, I closed my laptop and prepared to start my new sundown ritual. There are some amazing resources online offering advice for protecting a residence from otherworldly incursion. Step 1 was salt. I visited each door and window in my apartment, adding a thin line of salt on the ground to block the entrance. I even salted all of my closed doors just in case. Next came sage and incense. Holy water splashed on the windows, dream catchers and crosses added to the walls. You can find almost anything in Baltimore if you know where to look. Turns out there were 2 mysticism supply stores and 1 apothecary within a short daylight sprint from where I lived. Feeling about as protected as a pinwheel farm in a hurricane, I retreated to my bedroom to drink myself to sleep. For the last 2 days, I've been crippled by migraines, an issue I'd never had before my new eyes. Not long after the headaches began, I also started to notice strange patches of dry skin on my arms and legs. More than just dry, the spots were hard to the touch and cold. They were somewhere between metallic and crystalline. At one point, I'd thrown up a handful of teeth but found none missing from my mouth after a frantic check. Something was changing in me. Without any mirrors to check, I couldn't be sure, but even my face felt different. Sharper, younger. The night before I met Jennifer was the worst I experienced. A vicious odor crept in around 10 p.m., a mix of cinnamon and dust-like, in the porta-potty section of a summer music festival. My bed began to rock gently around midnight, then not so gently. After less than a minute it stopped, and I pulled myself out of the fetal position. Cracks formed in the ceiling above my head, opening and closing like gills. Wind blew down from the openings, hot and bitter, followed by a horrible tugging sensation as the air was sucked upwards. The holes narrowed and split into a network of woven red lines. I saw faces in the lines, including my own frightened one reflected back at me by a pair of mirrored eyes. I jammed my lid shut. "Please stop, please."
Look.
A voice shouted in my ear, their mouths so close I could feel their cold breath on my cheek. I didn't open my eyes. Eventually, I might have slept. The next sensation I was aware of was a sound coming from outside my window. Something was whistling. I finally opened my eyes to stare at the spot where the noise was coming from. My bedroom was back to normal. The window was covered by both blinds, and the whistling was pleasant, friendly, some tune I didn't recognize. I felt an overwhelming curiosity to find out who was making the sound. My hand was already on the curtain before I snapped out of my trance and stopped. For a few minutes I stood by the window, unable to pull myself away. It wasn't long before the whistling grew fainter, the whistler moving on their way. Once the night was quiet again, well, as quiet as Baltimore ever got, I collapsed on the floor. I was breathing like I'd been practicing wind sprints in the stairwell. Somehow I managed to drag myself over to the corner of my room farthest from the window. Then I passed out. Mid-morning light filtered in yellow and hazy through the closed blinds, waking me. The cavalry had arrived. I was safe. A long night had left me cramped and sore. I stood cracking my back, one hand against the wall as leverage. When I tried to twist the other direction, I found my hand stuck to the drywall, not only stuck, but merged. It was hard to see where the wall began and the flesh ended. I struggled, ripping, pulling, trying to escape. I braced my foot against the wall to help, and that became trapped as well. Everywhere my skin made contact, I bled into the surface. It drew me in until I was fully submerged. The claustrophobia nearly fried my sanity. I was only held for a minute or less before becoming suddenly unstuck and falling back into my bedroom. Stopping only long enough to grab my phone, keys, laptop, and wallet, I left the apartment to wait for Jennifer at the restaurant. I was still wearing my pajamas. At that point, I had 0 shits left to give.
Are you here yet?
I glanced around from my booth after reading Jennifer's message. The diner was nearly empty, caught in the limbo between breakfast and lunch and not fancy enough for brunch. "I'm in the back, the booth in the corner," I wrote back. "I'm in the red flannel." Before I finished typing, a small blonde woman darted into the seat across from me. She was wearing a denim jacket covered in patches and novelty buttons, as well as aviator sunglasses. I tried not to look at my reflection in their lenses.
"I thought it was you. I just wanted to check before inviting myself over."
"Hello, Jennifer. I'm Lucifer. Well, my real name is..."
"Don't. I don't need to know, and you're sure as hell not going to learn mine. No offense, but you look like 10 pounds of horse shit somebody stuffed into a doggy bag."
Some offense taken. It was a hard night." Jennifer nodded.
"Sorry, yeah, I know the feeling. Have you heard from any of the others recently?"
"No, not recently. The last one before you was Noah. That was a week ago, and there were some issues." Jennifer's lips closed in a hard line.
"Noah's up to no goddamn good, Lucifer."
Jennifer sighed and stole a sip of my coffee. We sat in silence for a minute while she chewed her lip. Suddenly, Jennifer leaned close.
"Don't freak out,"
she said, pulling off her sunglasses. "I freaked out,"
"Chill,"
Jennifer said, glancing around with empty eye sockets to make sure no one had noticed my yelp. "Your eyes.
"Yeah?
You don't have any?"
You're very observant."
I focused on my breathing until I felt less like a rabbit who just ate a burning cherry bomb. "What happened?" I asked. Jennifer put her glasses back on.
"I ripped them out last week, tried to give them back to whatever the thing was that wanted them.
"Well, did it work?"
They took the eyes, but I can still see the creatures. I can still see everything. I think the eyes are like a seed. Does that make sense? They planted those fucking eyes into our skulls and something took root. Other parts of me are changing. Last night I started floating for nearly 10 seconds. Have you noticed any differences?"
"Yeah."
"That bad, huh?"
I drained the rest of my coffee. I'd rather not talk about it.
"Whatever's happening, I think you and I are the only ones left. Noah is sending me cryptic emails, pictures, weird shit, and all of the others have gone dark. I've got somewhere we can go and I've got a plan, but I'm scared shitless to try on my own. Are you with me?"
I looked out the window. There was a wasp's nest the size of a Ford Fiesta dangling from a stoplight across the street. The nest was pink and wet. The insects that floated out from the hive were covered in hundreds of wings. The wasps were each as big as a seagull. "Sure," I told Jennifer. "I guess I'm in." Jennifer's plan involved an RV, a long drive, and possibly an assassination.
"More like a persuasive interrogation,"
she assured me. "Does that mean torture?" "That sounds like torture?" Jennifer grinned.
"It'll only be torture if Noah doesn't spill what he knows."
This was not how I pictured my life going when all of this started. But at least I wasn't alone in all this mess. I fixed my eyes on the road and made a mental note to never get on Jennifer's bad side. We were heading west on the interstate towards California, west towards Noah, and maybe some answers. All around us, spring was waking up trees caught between life and death. Cars zipped by us like fighter jets dodging a blimp. Jennifer's RV was an aged, patched-up Winnebago with maroon stripes on the side and a carpeted interior that might have been white once. The old machine rumbled when I pressed on the accelerator. The engine seemed to take the pedal's input as more of a suggestion than a command. We struggled to keep up with the highway speed limit. Jennifer had her feet on the dash, window down, a perennial cup of coffee in her hand. She kept her sunglasses on even after I promised her missing eyes didn't bother me. "Do you really think Noah is going to be that easy to find?" I asked.
"We've got his IP address and I'm a natural-born bloodhound."
I chuckled. Jennifer held one small hand out of the window, running her fingers through the breeze.
"I really can't believe both of you walnuts forgot to use a VPN or disguise your signal in any way."
"Sorry, I didn't realize I was living in an episode of Get Smart."
"Get what?"
"The man from Uncle."
"I don't understand a word you're saying in the order you're saying them."
"The Mission Impossible guy?"
"Okay, that one I got."
We drove all day, alternating who had the wheel every 2 hours. Whenever we needed a rest stop, we would pull over on the shoulder. The RV had its own bathroom, kitchen, and even a shower. Honestly, it was a pretty princey way to travel. Twice that day, Jennifer signaled me to make an emergency stop. She'd sprint from the Winnebago into the trees and brush that lines the highway. Then I'd hear the sound of vomiting. Jennifer told me she was fine, but she looked pale. Like me, she had strange, dry patches of skin that shined like dull nickels. Her neck was also red on both sides of her throat. The sun was setting. washing the sky in a gradient shade of violet when we started looking for a place to park for the night. We passed a massive accident. A dozen cars wrapped around each other. Ambulances, fire trucks, and cop cars swarmed, lighting up the evening with red and blue lights. One truck had crossed into the median and laid flipped over in the grass. There must have been a terrible fire because the vehicle was barely a shell, blackened, warped. I saw paramedics lifting a covered stretcher into an ambulance, and standing over the entire scene was a shadow covered in stars, nearly as tall as the tree line. Entire galaxies rotated across the absolute darkness of the creature, constellations drifting like leaves on a pond. The entity turned in my direction and cocked its head, curious. I felt a deep chill. There was this pull and...
Jesus, watch the road!
I snapped back and looked at the road. A horn honked. The RV had drifted over halfway into the next lane. Sorry, I said, correcting our course. I thought I saw... I snuck a glance back toward the accident, fading in the rearview mirror. There was no star-filled shadow leaning over the wreckage anymore. Never mind. A few hours after sunset, we pulled into a rest stop. Jennifer navigated the RV into an empty space in the gravel parking lot under one of the sparse light poles. There was a cluster of trees around us and a picnic table. Across the lot was a bathroom and some vending machines. We raided the latter for a quick dinner, then went to bed. Jennifer in the back room, me on the pull-out couch. I stared at the ceiling for a long time. Shadows from the light outside crept into the blinds, painting streaks across the kitchen. There was a tiny TV, but I didn't want to wake Jennifer. I was just beginning to drift off when I heard something whistling outside the Winnebago. My heart made a nearly successful escape attempt from my chest. The sound grew louder and louder, peaked at the window directly above my bed, then faded as the whistler moved past us. I lay in bed and held my breath until it was gone. I didn't sleep that night. On day 2 of our road trip, Jennifer told me more of her plan.
When we get there, you'll hold Noah down while I'll slug him a few times, just to let them know we're serious. Then we'll ask Noah about the cryptic emails and make them tell us everything they know about the eyes and the creatures.
What if they don't know any more than we do? I asked. Or what if trying to beat the answers out of Noah doesn't work? Jennifer cracked her delicate knuckles.
Oh, the beating will work. The beating always works.
She looked at me with a blank face. I turned on the radio. It was a gorgeous day, perfect for a drive. The road sun-soaked. We had the heater running to counter the dawn chill, but there was a warm edge on the wind that suggested the cold was only temporary. I tried to focus on that over the alarming condition of Jennifer's skin. Sometime during the night, the red patches on her neck had turned yellowish purple. Thin scars and parallel lines stretched across each blemish. I also noticed that Jennifer was hiding her right hand from me, keeping it tucked in the pocket of her denim jacket or hanging out the window. Her condition was troubling. Not that I was doing much better. I caught sight of my face in the mirror. The metallic spots I'd seen earlier were fading, but now the veins in my neck and cheeks had darkened to the point where they were clearly visible. Little scratches had appeared in clusters around my eyes, giving me the appearance of someone who had gone through a briar patch face first. I felt dizzy, and my joints were sore. As we pulled into a fast food place to grab breakfast, I prayed that we'd find Noah, and that they'd have some kind of answers. Clouds began to spill into the sky around midday, puffy white at first. The clouds quickly darkened, and the nice day I'd predicted became dreary. Rain lashed at the windshield faster than the old RV's wipers could keep up. We rocked and rattled with every gust. After an hour, it became clear we were pushing our luck, so Jennifer found an exit to a half-empty mall. We parked the RV and spent the rest of the day sitting on the cramped couch together, watching horror movies. I woke up after dark. The gentle hum of rain on the window and the warmth of the Winnebago must have put me to sleep. I felt something pressing against my shoulder. Apparently Jennifer had nodded off as well. Outside, the world was bright white, lit by the parking lot's infinite rows of fluorescent lamps. Beyond the glow of the lights, the sky was dark, clouds obscuring any stars. Jennifer's glasses had slipped off as she slept. Eyes or no, she was fox-featured, stunning and lovely. I tried to wake her up, but she grumbled and held her arms out. It took me a moment to realize she wanted a lift. When I did, I felt a little rush and smiled. I carried her to the bedroom, took off her shoes, tucked her in, and then slipped out to return to the couch, closing the door between us. I was still grinning as I fell back to sleep. The smell of smoke caused me to snap awake. My first thought was fire. Then I saw the figure sitting on the edge of the couch, so close. He was almost touching my feet.
"You're not looking so good,"
the smoker croaked. In the dim light, I could see he was wearing a wrinkled and stained gray suit, with the shirt untucked and no tie. The same cloud of smoke hung over his face, hiding his features, though I thought I could see the outline of a treadly hat through the haze. "Am I dreaming?" I asked. The smoker grabbed my leg. I yelped. He pulled my foot towards my face. I heard the crunch click of my jaw unhinging and started to struggle. The smoker dropped my foot and I jumped to my feet.
"Did you feel that?"
he asked. I was shaking, standing with my fist raised. "Yeah."
"Then you're not dreaming. Now sit down."
An invisible force slammed into my shoulders. I fell to the floor, then dragged myself into a sitting position. The smoker sighed, causing a puff of smoke to blow out.
"I warned you about the eyes. Offered to take them from you, but now it's too late. The seed is planted and you're nearly ready to bloom. Do you feel it?"
My face was tight. I reached up and touched my cheek. The veins there were as hard and cold as stone, stretching against the skin. "What's happening?" I whispered.
"The usual change,"
the smoker replied. Jennifer screamed from the bedroom. I tried to stand up, but the same unseen pressure knocked me down. The smoker stood over me. Then he was gone, and I could move. I ran to the bedroom door. It was locked. Jennifer screamed again, and I heard whispering. I kicked the door. Twice was enough to snap the cheap lock. The room was dark and looked empty, except for Jennifer. She was curled up near the top of the bed, one arm raised to protect her face. "Jennifer, where is it?" She slowly lowered her arm.
Gone, I think. There was a girl. Her eyes were... Lucifer, they were awful. She bit me.
I could see a bloody ring just under Jennifer's wrist. Small teeth marks were clearly visible.
Why? What did I ever did to her?
She said while crying. She couldn't even shed tears because of her absent eyes. All I could do was shake my head.
Will you stay in here tonight? Lucifer, I'd feel better if you slept in here, okay?
Okay. I got into bed, then immediately out when Jennifer asked me to switch on a light. Finally settling in, Jennifer lifted my arm and moved close to me. We stayed like that until the pigeons outside announced the break of dawn.